So you're looking for an Elvis review? Well, you come to the right place. Hey, what's up, bookworms and couch potatoes? Mike back today to talk a movie review for a change. And today we're going to be talking about the 2022 biopic on the most successful solo recording artist of all time, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. Elvis, the movie is directed by Baz Luhrmann, stars Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. Guys, it's a movie, if you've watched the channel at all, you know I've been very excited about it. I was raised in a home with the Beatles and Elvis, and what do you know? That's two of my three favorite artists of all time. Now, obviously, I'm a very big Elvis fan. I can't call myself a mega fan because I feel like the mega fans are the ones who usually got like the walls of merchandise. I can count on one hand how much Elvis merch I have, but I can count on one hand how many Elvis songs I dislike. So I really am a huge fan of his music, his influence, and pretty much everything that he has meant to the music industry, because there are still people today that have had influence by the king himself. So this was a movie I was very, very excited about, and it had very high expectations for me going in. So did it meet those expectations? Well, we are going to talk about those today. Now, I don't feel like I need to do a what is this about, because I feel like everyone knows at this point, at least even if it's just like a pop culture reference, we all know who Elvis is at this point. This is a story on his life from the beginning until the bitter, tragic end. So guys, we're just going to dive right in with what I liked about this movie. Now, first I got to say right off front, Austin Butler was amazing, guys. I mean, you got to think with a movie like this, how hard is it going to be to find a guy to play Elvis? Because let's be honest, not very many people look like Elvis, and not very many people can move like Elvis, and absolutely no one can sing like Elvis. I think that Austin Butler got about 2 of the 3 right here. I don't think he looks so much like him. He doesn't look nothing like him, like I've heard some people say. But I do think, actually, the teenage years, it's kind of hit or miss with the pompadour and stuff like that. But once he got to like the 60s and the hair was just like slicked back with the sideburns, I thought he looked a lot more like him. Like in the 68 comeback, he looked a lot like him. It was very, very impressive what they were able to do. But this guy caught the mannerisms. He caught the movement. A lot of the stuff that he sang himself is very, very impressive. And like I said, Elvis is one of the greatest singers ever. So that's no small feat in itself. But I think the thing that really, he just does amazing in this movie is the voice. His voice, he talks like Elvis. You can tell this dude studied every bit of film and every bit of audio that he could find on Elvis, because he sounds like him. The problem with a lot of Elvis depictions is it's always like a caricature. Although the voice is talking like this, it just sounds like an Elvis impersonator, you know, and over-exaggerated big time. And also that late 70s, like the Showman era in Vegas, it's always just mostly that. This, he talks like Elvis talked. You listen to any interview with the man, and this is what it sounds like. So impressive. I mean, it just, I can't say, basically if the Academy doesn't give this guy Oscar nomination, at least they are asleep at the wheel, and it's a highway robbery. So yeah, I think I don't see any way this guy doesn't become a superstar in the movie industry. And he's doing this, he's doing Dune Part 2 next, with something obviously I'm very, very excited about. I think this guy's career is just going to take off, because he sounds like he takes his craft very, very seriously. He did just kind of dive right into it. Now, I think something this movie does really, really well is it captures the whirlwind and kind of the hysteria of when Elvis first blew up, just showing the reaction of, let's just say, very repressed teenagers at the time that were looking. It was right before that rebellion era that Elvis helped to kick off. And the fact that people are reacting like this. I mean, you look at this where he's at the Louisiana hayride and everyone's just calm and reserved, and he comes out and all of a sudden it is complete madness. And that's kind of something that I feel like was never really been captured well on film. You know, we've seen some grainy black and white footage and stuff, but nothing has ever really captured this as well as Luhrmann does, I think. He really does do that. I think this, over the time, this image of Elvis has been, you know, towards the end of his life, you know, the jumpsuit with the rhinestone suits and the Vegas and gaining weight and things like that. And like I said, maybe some of the over-the-top kind of characters of him. That's kind of become like the image for younger audiences. I feel like this movie does a good job in kind of rehabbing that image of showing that Elvis at his peak was untouchable. There was nothing like this. And you could see why he kind of took over the entire world just by being a performer the way that he was. So I think it really does capture just kind of the mass hysteria of the younger audiences, and just people just flocking to this guy, and just anything that he did on stage was just absolutely incredible. So I think he really does capture that. Even that time in Vegas, which started off really, really great, guys. It really, really did. We all kind of know how it kind of ends, and this movie does kind of show that. But I think it really does capture the peak of his. He was just a bad son of a bitch. It captures all of that stuff, and I really do love that. I think the musical parts of this are just amazing. The Louisiana Hayride, the 68 comeback special, those things are just electric. That charity show that he did, I'm going to show you what the real Elvis is like tonight. That stuff, it captures the musical parts just fantastic, because we've never really seen that with modern eyes, kind of what it was like, the pandemonium of an Elvis performance. It really does capture that really well. I do feel like it skips a lot, and we're going to talk about that, but what it shows is really, really terrific. I love the early show, like I said, at the Louisiana Hayride. Really does show that he was nervous, and boom, he just came out of a shell and just kind of tore the paint off of the walls with that performance, and it was just nothing but rocket after that. I do feel like I said, it kind of really goes really fast through that. And I think the first year of the stuff in Vegas, it shows really well, where he's putting together the orchestra and the band, the backups, the huge, huge set that he's putting together. It shows that stuff really, really well. It shows the creative process, I think, better than I was expecting. But I love that this movie did not shy away how Elvis was influenced by black artists. This is something I feel like has kind of gotten lost with time, is a lot of people will accuse him of stealing from black artists. Some people have accused him of being racist, which I think is just madness. This guy was huge for the African American community. Getting a lot of African American artists on the radio was a big thing with Elvis. But yes, him hanging out at Club Beale and things like that, all very much true stuff. He was very influenced by this stuff, and he really did bring that kind of music to white audiences, I believe. So I think that it's very respectful, the way that's done in the movie. I'm glad it did not shy away from that. And it didn't shy away from any of the dark stuff either. The drugs, the affairs, all that stuff. It's in here. But I did not hide any of the warts. And that's something I feel like a lot of biopics usually do. Now, look, I do like the Baz Luhrmann aesthetic. You know what you're getting with the Baz Luhrmann movie. It's going to be a visual feast. That's never going to be a problem with his movies. He does this thing where he almost looks like comic book panels, where things are shifting on different sides of the screen. You're seeing things from 3 different angles, maybe 3 different time periods of Elvis's life. I actually like that. I thought that was really cool, showing, when he's putting together that big band of Vegas, it's showing his roots back when he's recording That's All Right Mama. It's showing some stuff in the 68, and it's showing some stuff, here post Aloha from Hawaii. So I think that was just some really, really great stuff that he does. I know the criticism of Baz Luhrmann stuff, but I will let you know that stuff is in here. So if you like that stuff, I think you'll be happy. Some people, not so much. I'm glad they didn't try to make Tom Parker sympathetic. That was something I was really worried about. Seems like something that we do in movies now, is we try to take the villain. I think Disney started this when Maleficent really hit big, is we try to take our villains now and always make them sympathetic. Tom Parker was a con man. He was a crook. He was a snake, and this movie shows that. I've heard some complaints saying, oh God, they almost make him like a comic book villain. I think this could very much be a comic book movie, in that Elvis is the hero and Tom Parker is very clearly the villain. The guy was not a good person. The guy was very, very self-serving. He was very selfish, and he had his own motives, and this movie does not shy away from that at all. I actually think it could have been even more realistic about how awful of a human being this man was. So I'm glad that they did that. And I gotta say, I'm not crazy about the accent that Tom Hanks is using in this. I understand what he was going for here, but there are lots of people that were close to Elvis during this time that said they never heard Tom Parker speak like that. So that's a choice. But it was one of those things also, I mean, he's kind of lost himself in the role, that if someone hadn't told me before I saw the movie that it was Tom Hanks, I'm not sure I would have noticed it until a couple parts where you really see it in his eyes. So I don't feel like the eyes have aged very much as obviously as Tom Hanks does. But showing that relationship is something I feel like hasn't really been done in other movies before. So it was interesting, even if I would have liked some more time spent on like some of the other members of his band, some other members of the Memphis Mafia, things like that I would have liked to see a bit more. But I think he does a great job of showing how lonely this man was. Elvis, for all of his success and stuff, he really felt trapped a lot of the time. As you can see, he never really was able to stand up to the Colonel except once, and it kind of backfired. It's embellished a little bit, guys. Now, that's the thing about this is life imitates art, art imitates life, that kind of thing. Hollywood's always going to kind of change some things that kind of give a life story a little more interest. So there are some things that are like kind of overdone, like Elvis didn't publicly fire Tom Parker like he does in the movie and stuff like that. But, it's all based on truths. He does show how lonely Elvis really, really was, and how he realized what he had with Priscilla after it was too late, kind of thing. I think it was really, really great of him to really show that he captured it. I think this is really a cautionary tale for young artists of not hitching your wagon to the wrong person that does not have your best interest at heart. And that's hard. That's really, really hard. But I think you can see here that when Elvis died, guys, he had like $2 million. I mean, this is the most successful recording artist of all time. Guy made $1 million a movie. And he was almost broke when he died. That's incredible when you think about what the guy achieved. And a lot of that is because of Tom Parker. A lot of it's because Elvis did spend profusely. You know, you grow up in poverty and all of a sudden you got money. You're not going to understand how these things work. But it doesn't hide those things. And I love that. Another thing, or kind of minor to some people, but it was a big deal to me. I'm glad at the very end they used archival footage of Elvis doing his last performance. I did not want to see them put Austin Butler in a fat suit. I thought that would have been very, very distasteful. So I'm glad that they used actual footage of Elvis there. And I think it actually just kind of adds to the heartbreak. You know, that last goodbye between him and Priscilla with Austin Butler portraying Elvis was really, really heartfelt and a very, very tragic kind of moment. I think he really did capture that all there really, really well. And I'm glad that they did not use the fat suit because that would have been terrible. Okay. Now, guys, we got to talk about some things I didn't like because I'm going to say these are some things that bother me as a big Elvis fan because obviously I know the history. There are big moments that I wanted to see and things like that. If you are a very casual Elvis fan, like for example, guys, my wife is a very casual Elvis fan. She likes his music, but I would never catch her listening to it if I wasn't around. A lot of these things didn't bother her as much as they bother me. So I think this is going to kind of depend on you. So many things are rushed, guys. So many things are rushed. 2 hours and 40-minute movie. I don't feel like any of those big moments should have been rushed. So I appreciate the montaging some stuff. There's a lot of montaging in here. And obviously you're going through this 20-year span of this guy's career here. You're going to have to montage some stuff. I felt like they montaged the wrong things. 1956 was just the year that Elvis exploded. And it's over in the movie in like 90 seconds. It's just, hey, I recorded That's All Right Mama. I had my performance at the Louisiana Hayride. Hey, my album sold millions. I'm a millionaire now and I'm buying Graceland. I felt like that really, really should have been shown a lot more than it was because those first 2 years with Elvis before he joined the Army were just amazing. And I felt like we got so many things that we missed. I'm glad they showed the hound dog bit, with him having to sing to the dog, because Elvis did say that was the most embarrassing moment of his career. But, they didn't show him on Ed Sullivan, where they censored him, where they would only show him from the waist up. The Aloha from Hawaii, to the day, guys, is still like the most watched TV concert of all time. 1.5 billion people watch that show. It gets a 10-second mention in this movie. That's unreal. Why would you not show that? I'm glad they dedicated the time they did to the 68 special because that stuff is recreated like bit by bit and it's amazing. It looks incredible. It really, really is. Again, some embellishment there, but I can let those things go. It was never meant to be a big Christmas show like the movie kind of tries to portray it to be. But I did really like the way they did that, but I hated that they really kind of skipped over the Aloha from Hawaii, which was just huge. So I appreciate them montaging his movie career and his Army stuff. That's fine. But some of those huge, significant moments, or just huge moments in our pop culture history, skipping over those, I feel like was just kind of inexcusable. I definitely think we should have got some of the build-up to Aloha from Hawaii, which was just an amazing feat when you think about the time that was done. So 5-second mention in the movie was zero footage. Bad choice there. So I do like the comic book aesthetic that Baz Luhrmann decided to use here, but I don't like the speed running. Like I said, lots of things are really, really sped up. I don't feel like we really spent very much time on some of those big moments. I wish you would have kind of stopped to take a break every once in a while. And guys, I wish the movie had been in a better narrative order. It does kind of jump all over the place with the timeline. I do wish it had been like Ray, the Ray Charles movie, where it had started just when he was a kid in the trailer park and went all the way through the end. Just give me a narrative straight order instead of this jumping around stuff. You can still have some flashbacks. In the movie Ray, he does have the flashbacks where his brother's drowning later in the movie. He does have those things. I wish it had kind of done something more like that. Maybe some flashbacks as we're going through the years with Elvis. Instead of this jumping around, I thought that was the first 30 minutes is so breakneck. If you don't know the history of the character, you might be confused a couple times. So that's going to happen. Now look, guys, this is a Baz Luhrmann movie. I knew going in there was going to be some interesting musical choices. My biggest problem with this movie is the musical direction. And here's the thing. You've got this library of the greatest selling solo recording artists of all time. The man has over 30 number one hits in his lifetime. I think there's maybe a dozen Elvis songs in the whole movie. That's unbelievable. Like, for example, the scene where him and Priscilla have their first kiss. Sure, you're hearing Can't Help Falling in Love by Casey Musgraves. Why am I listening to Casey Musgraves sing Can't Help Falling in Love instead of Elvis freaking Presley singing Can't Help Falling in Love. I don't understand what these choices were. And something that he does is every time it shows Elvis's influence from the black community, it starts playing like this scat rap stuff that I don't listen to that stuff. I just think it was very jarring. Elvis was greatly influenced by blues. Play some of those songs. Play some of that stuff. Play some of the stuff that he was really influenced by. Why are we playing this 2022 scat rap stuff? I don't understand that musical direction at all. But I mean, I guess you got to kind of expect this with Baz Luhrmann. This is the guy who made Moulin Rouge and says, hey, it's 1890 in France. And he opens up with Gloria Estefan and Nirvana. These things are kind of happen. But with me, it's like, dude, you got so much music from Elvis to try to squeeze in this movie. Why is there so much non-Elvis music in this movie? That's a horrible, horrible, horrible decision. That's one that really, really bothered me. My wife, too. That's her biggest gripe about the movie is like, why? This is one of the greatest singers ever. Why do we not have more of his music in his movie? That makes no sense at all. But yeah, that in the narrative, I really do feel like the story needed to slow down once in a while, take a breath, and let us catch up with the character. So I know this wanted to focus more on Elvis the man than Elvis the musician, and I get that. But I felt like this is a guy who all he wanted to do was make music. I felt like it should have been given more time than it got in this movie. And I think there's several things that should have been cut out, and several things that should have been put back in. Now there is rumors of a 4-hour cut of this movie by Baz Luhrmann, and I would very much like to see that because I feel like there's no way that Baz Luhrmann just said, yeah, aloha from Hawaii, we don't need anything of that. I just can't see him saying that as an Elvis fan. So, final thoughts, guys. Austin Butler deserves an Oscar for this portrayal, without a doubt. If Rami Malek could win for Freddie Mercury, I think Austin Butler completely blows away what Rami Malek did in Bohemian Rhapsody. So, I think on principle alone, he needs to at least get a nomination. If they don't want to give it to him, that's fine. The Academy never does the right thing, but he needs a nomination as well. So I think the casuals might not have as many problems with this as some of the bigger Elvis fans, especially the mega fans. I think that there are going to be a lot of people that are big Elvis fans that are going to be kind of upset with some of the things that are left out, some things that are embellished upon, some things that, like I said, he kind of speed ran through. In the end, guys, if you like Baz Luhrmann's style of movie making, you like Gatsby. I don't think anybody liked Gatsby. You like Moulin Rouge. You like Romeo and Juliet. You like Australia. Things like that. I think you're going to like what you see. But if you don't like Baz Luhrmann's style, this is not going to be the movie that converts you because it has Baz Luhrmann written all over it. All you got to see is the very beginning of the movie with all the rhinestones and the bright colors and all that. And say, yeah, I'm watching a Baz Luhrmann movie for sure. But I think without a doubt, guys, this is the most accurate portrayal of Elvis that we've ever got. And there's been a lot of them. A lot of people don't think that there has been as many. There's been a ton. It just always seems like an Elvis impersonator that you would go see in Las Vegas. We've never seen really this many different versions of the man who did evolve incredibly so during those 20 years. He wasn't just what he was at the end in Vegas. That's what every portrayal always seems to be, that version of Elvis. So getting to show us Elvis in his prime when he was just a lady killer was something that I really, really did appreciate. Even if I do wish they'd slowed down, took a breath once in a while, and showed Elvis becoming the biggest thing on earth. But on the end, guys, I think I'd put this above Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, but just below Walk the Line and Ray as far as like the musical biopic goes. I still think Ray is the gold standard for the musical biopic. Everything should be done in the way that movie did, but I think that the performance by Austin Butler absolutely carried this movie and maybe kind of overlook a lot of the flaws. So I think it's one of those kind of things, guys, where I was super, super excited for this movie. I don't want to say it didn't meet expectations. I think what I would say is I think the movie's really good, but it had the potential to be great, and it just missed it. So it's something that I'm going to recommend that everybody sees, if just for anything, to see that Elvis was much more than just the depictions that we see of him today. He was just a badass MF. He was everything. And there's a reason why the whole music industry changed when this man blew up. And I'm glad that it does getting some of the respect that it deserves. And I hope that this leads to some new ears on Elvis's music. I wish they'd put more in the movie so people could say, hey, I need to go buy some Elvis albums and listen to some of this music because it's really, really good. So I think that's the greatest failure on behalf of this movie, is not putting more Elvis music in the Elvis movie. So guys, that was Elvis 2022. What'd you think? Did you catch it at the theater? I hope that you did, because I would love to see more biopics by artists I love personally. As a big Beatles guy, I would love to see a really faithful Beatles adaptation about their career. I think that could be great, but it would probably be better as a miniseries, because I think it'd have to be a lot longer. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more ground to cover there. But, Beatles were only together for 8 years, guys. So, I think you could probably do it if you really, really wanted to. But guys, that was Elvis. What'd you think? Drop in the comments and let me know, and I will talk to you there. Thank you. Thank you very much.